Hi everyone, it's Terry from Terry Scrapbooks, and I'm here to share my little treasure book of vintage lace and ephemera. There's pieces of lace and little pieces of ephemera that I've collected, and I thought this was a great way to save them and enjoy them. So here's this really pretty book that the pages were falling out of, so I took the book cover, so pretty, and I covered over the title of the book. I scanned this side into the computer, and then in Photoshop I created this piece to cover the title spot, and I glued it on. Here's the back, and we'll open it up. And this is an original vintage photo. I love these ladies in their matching outfits. This is an original watch face. It's metal. Here's some vintage pieces of fabric that I cut into a little collage. Advertisement cut from the pages of a Delineator magazine, an antique magazine. It's from the Butterick Publishing Company, and it's about the proper care of babies' clothes. And there's a bronze-colored dream key there. I put paper on the back. Here's a Valentine. So pretty. It says Saint Valentine's greeting. A truer lover you ne'er will find, nor one more suited to your mind than this who sends you now a line and calls himself your Valentine. From William K. Frost. I stamped on some fabric and made a little banner and hung it on a safety pin. Here's a little bead and a little piece of scrap lace. And this is from the Hartford Fire Insurance Company. It is a household furniture form for a dwelling situated on the north side of Maine and known as the Royce Hotel. Date April 1st, 1908. I have some vintage Victorian scrap. Here is a fan and on top of a doily. And this is a bird cage charm. This is from an old hanky. So pretty. And this is an envelope with a Victorian scrap angel on it. And inside I've got a botanical image that I took from a vintage book, and I've done some stamping on it and put some paper on the back and some stamping on that. Stamped on the envelope. And here's a photo of a lady sitting in the sunshine. She looks like she's enjoying herself. Antique greeting card here with pansies on it. Here's some tatting I took from edging of a doily. Put it on top of this really pretty lace piece. And there's a little clock charm down here with bits and scraps of this and that tied on. Antique gathered lace and some more tatting. Here's an envelope with some small ephemera inside. Some really gorgeous script writing. It's a calling card. Edgar H. Rank. And here is a railroad ticket for Poughkeepsie, New York. It's November 1897 is punched out there. And this beat says the Highland Ferry to Poughkeepsie, New York. And this is for the Morris Brothers Ladies and Gents Restaurant and Oyster House, 538th Avenue, between 36th and 37th. Open all night for New York. And on the back is a little joke thing, and it says, "Don't use big words. In promulgating esoteric cognotations or articulating superficial sentimentalities, in physiological or psychological observations, beware of platitudinous ponderosity." And it goes on like that until the last line where it says, "In other words, talk plainly, sensibly, and truthfully." I like that much better. Next, we have a piece of music taken from a music book, and it's titled "A Home on the Mountain," which is close to my heart because I love my home in the mountains. And a butterfly paperclip. And here's an old postcard that says, "From the green-clad hills of old Vermont, from the hearts that are strong and true, comes this wish of mine to a friend of mine who loves the old state too. A Merry Christmas." And here I back this space with a old article, "The Might of One Fair Face." Here's a metal ring tag that I stamped, and a key, and some vintage fabric from an old quilt. And these are two little tags in a lace pocket. One's made from book pages and one just from paper, craft paper with a little piece of lace stuck on it. And back here, I have a page from a stamp catalog. And this is some play money. And here is the Toll High School from Newburyport, New Hampshire, class of 1944 senior reception. And here's the senior officers, class officers. And here's the order of dances, the senior farewell. And next is the committee people and the chaperones. It says, June 19th, 1944, went with Stanley Miller. This piece says, "The teachers and students of the Downs Commercial School cordially invite you to attend a Valentine party and dance, Friday evening, February 9th, 1912, from 7 to 9:30 at the schoolroom's Daggett building. Dancing and distribution of mail, Leslie Hall, from 9:30 to 11:30. And here's a pretty bird image. Love this lace. And here's some more tatted lace. And some tatted lace on the edge. And here's a ticket for a soda fountain. Corbett's Rexall Store Soda Fountain, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. This is a photocopy of a vintage photo, and I did some stamping on it. I put some paper on the back and did some stamping there, and I put a sticker on that says, "Travel the world over to find the beautiful." And this is a letter from a brother to his sister. British New Guinea, February 11th, 1945, Sunday. Dear Sis, I hope by the time you receive this letter that Ralph will be home and having a swell time. Well, there is one thing I like about this place. It is peaceful and quiet, and nothing ever happens. I was on KP yesterday for the first time in a long while, and I felt sorry for all the boys who were out there really working hard. It made me tired just watching them. Gee, it's hot today. I just received a letter from Mom, and she said you are feeling fine, which I was glad to hear. How is Marie getting along these cold days? Do you see her very much? Well, sis, give my love to Mom and Dad, and write soon. P.S. Here's 2 big kisses. Smack, smack. Give my love to Linda. Your loving brother, Roland. Some pretty lace, tiny embroidery. Gathered up some silk fabric and embroidery. Here's a telephone charm. And here's a game piece, an antique game piece from a grocery store game. Sweet chocolate, 7 cents. And this is a glassine bag, and inside is a 1915 calendar. Very tiny. On the back is written, "This is the last year Pa and I went to Oregon. Mother." And here is where they've put 2 postcards back to back and sandwiched some silk in between so it makes little silk fringe around the edges. Here I have a Tim Holtz floral die cut, and I coffee dyed it. And I also stamped a couple labels and stuck them on here. And this is a little paperclip type thing. Here is the Beach's Common Sense Traveler's Expense Book. It's a little booklet for traveling salesmen. And it's got places for you to keep track of your expenses, breakfast and what you paid for it, auto allowance, gas and oil, total expense for the day. And here's where you can keep track of your day's work. So like you called the following and sales and collections. Monday, Friday, summary for the week. And here's a card for Rosemary in remembrance and friendship. And this is just a piece of paper I liked that I aged with some ink. And there's a compass charm, pretty lace. And an envelope made with a book page. And inside we have another calling card with really pretty script. H.B. Hull. Some kind of stamp on the back. This is a handwritten ticket to a play for the Deacon's Honeymoon, March 20th, 1926. This is a receipt for an installment of $5 on an organ, Laconia, New Hampshire, April 21st, 1889. This is a handwritten recipe for a strawberry cake in my mother's handwriting. And another piece of paper that I aged. Crocheted lace, some silk ribbon. This is a gift card that came, I think, on a wedding gift from Mrs. Ann Pirtle Sudbury, care of Mrs. Floyd Pirtle. And it says, "Ann, I am wishing you both lots of happiness and success. Signed, a friend, Grace Gillian." This is a tag I made from a vintage soda company receipt. And paper on the back and some stamping. Piece of Victorian ephemera. And here's a kind of paperclip bookmark with a glass dome on the top, and I've tied it up with a bunch of scrap laces. I did some collaging back here. Here's one of Renee Bouquet's printed beautiful chipboards. Here's a Bible page, small Bible page because it's cute. Next is a organ recital ticket at the West Side Auditorium, Monday, January 12th, 1903 at 8:15 p.m. This is an optometrist lens. Kind of makes things smaller when you look through it instead of a magnifying. Here's a scrapbook paper tag and very cool vintage lace, acorn charms, antique pips tied up with a ribbon. Here's a card for the Ladies' Aid Society of the 61st Street M.E. Church. Request your presence at the reception for Dr. and Mrs. Elmer A. Dent. Here's a collage I made on a piece of ledger paper, and I just used a book plate for this image from a horticultural magazine. Another Tim Holtz floral die cut and two small tags that I die cut out. It says dream, and here is a English vocabulary card. A book page with some lace trim and vintage fabric scraps. And here is a blank check for the State Bank of Terry from Terry, Montana. So I found that on eBay and I just had to have it. Beautiful book plate. Some more vintage fabrics. And this piece was from a box of greeting cards, all occasion greeting cards, a very old box, and I cut this little image off the side and backed it with paper, and that's why it's in here. This is a watch parts envelope, and I have a little metal rimmed tag. I used brown archival ink to make this tape look vintage. And inside there's this is wrapping paper, vintage wrapping paper. And there's a little playing card from a game and a little collage. And another game piece. This is from a vintage Uncle Wiggily game. Dear me, you'll have to hop, Uncle Wiggily, to the Bow Wow doghouse, and from there, wherever it tells you to go. This is a collectible card of an actress, Mrs. Sidney Drew, 1917, and she was part of a husband and wife comedy team. And here is a excellent condition vintage button card. And here is a sweet bag from Toyland, and it has a Victorian scrap inside. And here's a gasoline ration ticket booklet for Jefferson, Vermont for a 1932 Pontiac coupe. A coffee dyed scrapbook paper tag, beautiful embroidery, such small stitches. And here's a bird charm and a Christmas card addressed to Mrs. F.C. Rowell, Warren, New Hampshire, who is my great grandmother, and an upside down stamp. It's a little bitty tag that I stamped on. Pretty lace. Here's a butterfly charm. Inside the glassine envelope is some Victorian scrap, another piece of Victorian scrap, and some pressed heather that I glued onto this piece of paper. Mr. and Mrs. Thomas E. Sawyer, Jr. announce William Morgan Sawyer, October 4th, 1946. The War and What the Public Know About It. Aaron W. Dow, 206 State Street, Boston, Mass. Poinsettia Canned Goods and Groceries. Inside we have blank pages. So that is what the public knows about the war. This was cut from a box that used to contain hardwood clothespins. Here's a handmade tag that I stamped. And here is an invitation to a party for Beverly Johnson at 2 p.m., 936 Judson Place, Monday, July 14th. So there it is, my treasure book. I'm really happy with it. A nice place to keep all these things all together. I know I'll be making more, but I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for watching.